guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are going to be doing another creature design. Lately, I've been really wanting to do some type of bird creature, and I've also been wanting to do something with a skull. So I'm going to kind of mess around and see what we come up with. Anyways, let's get started on the project. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to work on for our bird creature is going to be the clay head. So for the clay head, I'm starting out with a pretty large piece of tin foil, and at the very end of it, I have attached a resin piece from when I made posable beaks. So I'm just going to be using the end of it because we're not going to be giving him a posable beak, mainly because I want his beak to be larger than this. This is just to help with weight and to also make the beak a little bit more sturdy because it's stronger than the clay. So I'm going to get this completely covered in clay. I'm going to blend everything together. Now I am trying to make the clay as thin as possible because I want my head to be as light as possible. I'm making a two-legged creature, and to make it easier to stand, it's best to try and make the clay pieces pretty light. Plus, we're going to be making a clay mask for this piece, and that's going to add a decent amount of weight to the face. So I'm going to try and make the head as light as possible before we have to add more weight to it. Anyways, once we have everything covered in clay and blended together, we can then start adding our features. So I'm going to start with the eyes, and I have these resin pieces. Now they do match the beak. That was an accident, and I'm not planning on keeping the eyes even this color. I am going to paint over them, but I just thought it was kind of funny. So I'm going to get these laid out on the face and start working on the eyelids, the cheekbones, and just kind of building up the clay around them. And then other than that, we just have the nose, so I'm going to add a little bit of clay there, kind of adjust the shape for it, make the opening for the nostrils, and just kind of mess around with the shape of the head until I like it, and just kind of cleaning everything up. I'm actually going to be furring the face to make it all feathery looking, so I'm not going to throw in a bunch of like detail or anything. I just want to focus on the eyes, the nose, and the layout of the beak. Then I'm going to bake my clay head for about 45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. And once it's out of the oven, we can start painting it. Now the main color that I'm going to be making our bird creature is going to be a nice red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to primer the entire head with red paint, just go over absolutely everything, and I'm going to let that dry before we add any details to it. After that, I'm going to take a darker red and I'm going to go in between all the little cracks and crevices around the eyes and the nose and just add a bit of a shadow to it. I'm also going to use this to add markings on the beak. I really didn't have anything planned out. I just kind of wanted to add something to make it look like little teeth marks. So I'm just going to make some little triangles along the side. Then I'm going to be taking a black and I'm going to go over the eyes, and I'm also going to be painting the underside of the beak, the bottom portion, black as well, to kind of separate the two pieces. Now at first with the eyes, I thought I could leave them a solid black, but they were kind of looking a little bit too plain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on the sides of them just a light lavender color to make the iris. So I'm going to make it look like the eyes are really extended, so they have really big pupils, and I'm just throwing in a little bit of an iris on the side. I'm going to blend it just a tiny bit into the black to make it fade a little bit. And that's basically it for the eyes. I left it really simple. And then lastly, I added a little bit of a highlight here and there around the eyes to just kind of frame them. And then once all my paint was done drying, I ended up resining over the entire head. Now, of course, I had to let this completely cure before we could make the mask, because I realized I probably should have made the mask before painting everything, but we can still do it, so it's not a big deal. We just have to kind of wait for everything to be cured so we can wrap our head in paper towels and foil. That way we can cover it and protect it while we sculpt the mask on top of it. Now the clay that I'm using for the mask, I've actually added a little bit of black acrylic to kind of gray it up a little bit, and I didn't even mix it completely in. I just kind of mixed it until I had like a marbling effect. I thought that would look really cool. So I'm going to start with the beak portion, and I'm going to try and make this as thin as possible, just like we did with the head, because we don't want it to be super heavy. Along with this, I also had a little bit of colored clay, a really dark red color, and I'm going to start framing the nose and the eyes with this. I'm going to try and do something where I blend the colors together so it adds a nice shadow around the eyes and nostrils. Anyways, once I have the entirety of the mask laid out, I'm going to start sculpting the details and adding a lot of texture around the openings for the eyes and the nose. So I'm just going to kind of make a bunch of line works and scratches and stuff like that, and just kind of make it look a little bit creepy looking. And then after that, what we need to do is we need to take our clay head out of the tin foil before we bake our head. This is one of the reasons why I probably should have done this before painting and resining the head, but again, we shouldn't have too much issue. I'm just going to be really careful. I'm going to open up the back and I'm going to pull our clay head out of the mask. And then we're going to set this in the oven and bake it for about 55 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. Once we have our clay mask done baking, I'm going to take a Dremel and I'm going to clean up the inside of it. I'm also trying to remove any extra clay that I don't need, mainly because the mask is still pretty heavy and I need to lighten it up just a little bit more. Other than trying to lighten up the mask, I'm also going to decorate it a little bit. So I've added some holes on the sides of the mask, and I'm going to use some string and some beads and just kind of decorate the sides a little bit. Now, other than our clay head and our clay mask, I also needed to make some resin claws, and I actually completely forgot about these while working on this piece, but I was lucky enough that I had the exact number of claws, and they were already painted in resin for a previous project that I never used them for, and the colors actually look really nice with the red, so that's what we're going to be using for our claws. So this is going to be another piece that has posable feet. I thought it would look really cute with all the little toes, and I'm gonna kind of show a little bit of making those, but if you guys want a full-on tutorial on how to make posable feet for your art doll, I already have a video that covers that. So I'll leave that link down below in the description if you wanted to check that out. But anyways, now that we have our feet done, we can start working on sewing the body. So here is the pattern that I'm going to be using to make the body. He's obviously going to have some really long legs and some really tiny wings. He's not going to be a flyer at all. He's mainly going to be a running bird. So I'm going to start with the sides of the body, which have the upper portion of the legs connected to it. And I'm going to cut along this line where it's going to separate the legs a little bit more. Then I'm going to take the inside portion of our legs and I'm going to start sewing those in place, just going along the front portion of the legs. Next, I'm going to take our belly piece and I'm going to sew our two side pieces to each side of the belly piece. So I'm going to start at the top where the neck is and I'm going to work all the way down until we get to the very end. For the wings, what I ended up doing was making the two side pieces one solid piece, so just kind of left them connected when I cut out the fabric. That way we could just fold this in half and sew along the edges of it, and then just flip them right side out. I'm actually not going to even stuff these because they're pretty much fluffy enough to where I don't need to. And then for the lower portion of the legs, I have a nice plush black fabric that I'm going to use. So I'm going to pin these two pieces together for each leg and I'm going to sew down the front of them. Then I can take them and I can sew them to the upper portion of the legs that are on the body. After that, I'm going to figure out where I want the wings to go on the body. So I'm going to draw that out, cut some holes, and then just sew the wings in place on the sides of the body. Now that our sewing is done, we can start putting our creature together. So I have a kind of weird wire frame. It's basically an upside down Y because we don't have any posable wings. I'm going to leave those floppy. We just have the posable legs and of course the neck. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take our clay head and we're going to glue it to the wire for the neck. So I'm going to get that in place, let it dry for a little bit, and then we can take the fabric for the body and we're going to glue the fabric portion of the neck around the base of the head. We're also going to let that dry a little bit and then we can start closing up the back of the bird and stuffing it. After that, we're going to take our posable feet and we're going to add them to the ends of the wires for the legs. So I'm going to basically adjust the wires to make sure that they're the right length, and I'm going to wrap everything together with a thinner gauge. Once we have those in place, we can take the fabric for the legs and we can start sewing around the bases of the feet, connecting the two pieces together. Then we just need to stuff and close up the backs of both of the legs. Okay, so our body is pretty much put together. Now we just need to finish up the face. So I need to add a little bit more fur around it. So I've cut some pieces to glue around the base of the head and just kind of add a little bit more fluff to it. And then I also have fur trimmings to add around this to kind of clean up the seam and make it look like it blends together better with the clay. Okay guys, and here is our Skull Dasher bird. I had so much fun with him. I love his legs, look at them, they're so long. And then of course his mask comes off and everything. It's still kind of heavy, so if you want to make him stand with it on, you do need to kind of like balance him a little bit, but it does work. I can actually make him stand up on his own. Voila! See? But yeah, other than his legs, because I absolutely love them, I am in love with his eyes because I just love how the expression came out on them. Yeah, he's so cute. He's like hug size. He's like, and then he got his like little legs. But anyways, our little Skull Dasher bird is going to be on my website, so if you guys are interested in giving him a new home, you can check the links down below for that. And because I really like the pattern, I might make more birds similar to this just because he's cute, and we'll see. We'll see how well he sells. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!